Tonight, on a very special episode of RPG Backtrack.
The game started out okay. I mean, it was just like any other RPG.
It seemed like it was going to be a decent game. I mean, everyone turned into animals at night. It sounded fun.
Every single hour in America, an RPGamer starts a new RPG.
I mean, Nippon Ichi hadn't published a bad game before. I don't know what happened.
One out of every 10 of those RPGs are terrible games.
It was a Lunar game, for God's sake. How can a Lunar game be bad?
But then I had to ask, where was the gameplay story? Where?
Games that are practically unplayable.
Sometimes I still have nightmares about Mugen Souls. That game haunts me.
Oh God, Kemco! Oh my God, oh no! Please no!
For as little as $60 a month, you can help RP gamers find better games.
I just don't know what to say. Lunar Dragon Song made me regret getting a Nintendo DS.
Good thing I'm addicted to reviewing, otherwise I would have with the site.
I had to go to a support group to get over my trauma.
Oh God, why, Kemco? Why? Please make it stop!
Right now, there's a gamer out there that needs you. Your donation says, "We're here to help." Please donate. Right now.
They're silly and they're goofy, mysterious and spoofy. Kemco makes them loopy, the Backtrack family. Their podcast is a blast, talk games from the past. They break down every class, the Backtrack family.
Beat. Defeat. Complete.
They trash things they abhor, and praise things they adore. They never are a bore, the Backtrack family.
Snake! Snake!
Hello and welcome to RPG Backtrack, your regular deep dive into your favorite RPGs. We are a production of RPGamer.com, bringing you such fine podcasts like RPG Cast, your weekly RPG news show, Q&A Quest, your weekly RPG feedback show, and us, your bi-weekly RPG nostalgia show. I am your host, Kelly Ryan, and with me, as always, my podcast partner in crime, the fool to my April, Mr. Matt Mason.
Yep, I'm a fool. You nailed that one perfectly. Usually I argue about the casting here, but no, 100% nailed it.
I've played some terrible games. I'm pretty much a fool myself.
I was going to say, we all got fooled this week.
And joining us, a couple of other April Fools. We've got Ryan Costa.
If fool me once is shame on me, what does fooling me a dozen times mean?
Ryan Radcliffe.
Playing Kemco.
Sorry, I stepped on you. Ryan Radcliffe.
Oh God. Oh man. What are these salty tears coming down my face? It's like a lagoon. Oh God, Kemco.
Q&A Quest special guest Wheels.
Disgaea 5 may have broken reviewing for me, but it was not the worst game I've ever played.
And later on, we'll have Jahwon to talk about one of the worst games he's played. And this is our April Fool's Day show. We had a lot of ideas, and ultimately decided on April 1st brings us the worst. We wanted to pretend to like these games, but I'm not that good of an actress, and I don't think any of us else are. Um, we did that. I think one of us did that bit when we were talking about Lunar Dragon Song during the Lunar episode. Actually, it was Mike Minky that was being all sarcastic, pretending like every decision in that game was a good decision when it was not. Yeah. So we've got a cavalcade of bad games to discuss. Not the bad games that you would think.
Every time you bring up Dragon Song, it's just a sad reminder. It's like, I've already forgotten about it. Please stop reminding me that it exists.
I need to remind myself it exists so that I will never be suckered into sticking with the game just because, well, it's the first RPG on the system, like I did with that one. But that's not the game I'm talking about tonight, believe it or not. I was originally going to go to that well and then thought, no, I have played one recently that was on that level. I think actually, Scar, you were the one that played the oldest game we're talking about.
Yeah, a Super Nintendo game.
Yeah, because that's your shtick.
So you played a Super Nintendo game. I played another Super, and both of those were wrong.
Well, I'll tell you what, let's how are we gonna pick music for this episode? My God. Or do you just need to take the music and then make it slowly louder to replicate my experience?
You can just put the Curb Your Enthusiasm music in the background.
Or the Sarah McLachlan song again. Make everybody really cry.
Use the Always Sunny theme.
I was thinking Three's Company for reasons I can't understand.
Oh, just come and knock on the door.
Exactly.
Well, we shall figure something out. In the meantime, we're going to take a short musical break and come back with our pain, our suffering, and you get to suffer right with us. So stay tuned. And welcome back to RPG Backtrack, where we are still talking bad games, and a Scar has appeared, aka Ryan Radcliffe, aka one of the Super Nintendo Wheel of Fame or Shame.
This is the Shame edition.
Okay, yeah, because I had no idea what game he was going to talk about. Thinking, well, what is the worst Super Nintendo RPG? Lagoon, Tecmo, Secret of the Stars, but you picked something that didn't even get localized.
Correct. Yes, the beauty of the retro wheel stream is I get to play all sorts of good and bad games on the Super Nintendo. Some I'm familiar with, some I am not. This game I was not familiar with. I don't believe I'd ever heard of it before I put it on the wheel. And I'm talking about Shin Seikoku Lawares, however you want to pronounce it. It's not a good game. I was able to complete it, so I can officially say it's terrible. I'd probably say it's worse than Lagoon, because at least Lagoon has some redeeming qualities that it's got like the ease adjacent kind of style, even though you've got the tiniest little dagger to attack with.
Mm-hmm.
But this game, La Juarez, it's just not good. It lured me in because the cover art is actually pretty nice. It's got that 90s anime style art, on it, and the story starts promising enough. You're introduced to this world where there was a previous war where these golems or mechs kind of dominated the world, and there were 8 that pretty much took over the world, and they were heralded as these unbeatable style units that in armies and wars. And right off the gate, your character, who's this little kid, he stumbles across one of them. So you're like, okay, that sounds promising enough. The graphics aren't anything special for the Super Nintendo. That's just run of the mill, sprites for a Super Nintendo game. And that's about as good of those are the nice things I can say about the game, because you've got 2 different battle styles. You've got battles in the mech and outside the mech, and I'll say both aren't great. Outside the mech, you've got a little bit more options because you have a party and you have magic and you have items and you can actually heal yourself. But the mech battles, which end up being the majority of the game, are the worst. It's the worst battle system I've ever played. You've got your health bar. You've got no way to recover your health in these mech battles, and most boss battles are mech battles. And you've got 3 commands that you can use in your mech: a punch, a kick, and defend. Defend really doesn't do anything because you'll just take damage from the enemy. So your best bet is to punch and kick and hope that you don't miss and you hit the enemies more than they hit you. And I got a lot of game over screens because that wasn't the case. Kick is a stronger version of punch. You would think punch would be more accurate than kick. That's how they would level set them, but no, they both miss at the equal rates. The beauty of playing these games on the SNES Mini, you can rewind. So I did a lot of save scumming and just tried to RNG my way through these battles. But it's pretty tough unless you grind an ungodly amount. And yeah, that's what I did. Thankfully, the game isn't long because the story just doesn't really make a lot of sense. And I was playing it on stream, and I thought I was reaching the crescendo of the game, and then the game just kind of ends before any meaningful conflict gets resolved. And so once I saw the credits rolling, I'm like, you know what? That's good. I don't care. I'm glad this is over.
It was a part 1 to something, basically.
I mean, maybe, but I don't believe there was ever a follow-up game to this.
This was their Empire Strikes Back. They wanted to set you up with this big climax and have you want to buy the sequel that never happened.
This was the Empire Strikes Whack, is what it was.
The way you described it made it sound kind of like Xenogears in a way.
I mean, I wish,
bad.
but it's just, yeah, the battles are terrible. The mech battles are just some of the worst battles I've ever experienced in an RPG. There is only one battle track in the game, and while initially it wasn't, the worst battle music because there isn't anything else, it does kind of get annoying over time. It's because you hear it over and over and over again. The dungeon exploration there isn't anything special. You don't really find any good gear in the game. The characters don't really have much as far as progression with their development. So it's basically, there is no overworld. You just go from one location to the other. And at the end of the game, you go through like a 10 or 15 floor dungeon, and every floor has a colorized boss that you've fought before. So it's you do have a little bit of a boss rush at the end to deal with. Luckily, you get your mech's life back if you level up. So if you grind enough, you can, then fight the boss at full health. If you lose any life, you just go back and fight a couple thousand more fights and level up again, and then take on the next boss, and so on. It's not fun. It wasn't fun. I'm glad it's over.
Fun.
The beauty of this game is, there needs to be something at the bottom of the barrel of the RPGs, so you know what terrible tastes like, and that's what this is. I have been writing reviews for the Super Nintendo games recently, and I'm fairly certain that this one is gonna get, pretty much ones across the board for my grading scale because I can't put zeros on there at RPGamer. We don't allow it. So yeah, it's gonna be a while till I get to it, but yeah, this game isn't gonna grade well. Spoiler alert.
It doesn't sound like it. It's amusing to me how we complained in the 90s about the RPGs we didn't get, but it also sounded like we didn't get them for a reason because they would have set the genre back.
There wasn't a lot of information on this game either. The GameFAQs posts, I think I was the last one to go on the board and ask questions, and I had basically was talking to myself. No one really is, no one's really paying attention to this game. It doesn't really deserve any attention. But there was one poster that had said, I beat the game around level 37 or something like that. And I looked at that, I was like, oh man, I'm level 20. Like what is going on here? And I tried to muscle my way through it without, grinding, but the hit rate of my punch and kicks were terrible, and I did have to level up about I believe I beat the game around level 34 or something like that. But yes, not fun.
Oh, in an effort to try seeing okay, can I find anything else about the game? I saw there was the English translation is released on the SNES Reddit, and there was a follow-up where they said, I never knew about this one. Do you know anything about this game? And the person who posted that it was translated didn't even bother responding. It's here. I did my job. And you shouldn't play this.
On GameFAQs, I'm looking. There's one review, and they gave it a 5, which is just there's a scale out of 10 on this website. But they said this game wins the award for the most dull SNES RPG, and then they gave it a 5. I was like, well, if it's the most dull, shouldn't it be lower than 5? Do you know how to grade stuff? The most dull means you're the best at being dull.
Yeah, the sprites all look like the same character, which is impressive in how lazy that is for SNES particularly, because everyone loved sprites. Like putting a little detail or at least using 2 base characters is something that I got used to or used to seeing. And just this, it's like off-brand brand flakes. Like there's nothing that stands out. It just looks like it's just at best the most inoffensive thing you could see, but when you give no variety to inoffensive, it becomes offensive.
Yeah, it's mostly forgettable. I'm kind of upset that I'm even bringing it up right here on this podcast. We're giving it more attention than it's ever had in the U.S. markets.
I mean, you never know. Somebody could be looking at a list of fan translations right now and see that and be like, "Oh, well, this looks interesting," and we're giving them a warning right now.
True.
It is the opposite of interesting.
Yeah, it was funny. I have a streaming buddy, and he has played more Super Nintendo games than me, and he had like a top 10 worst list, and this game was, I believe, number 2 or 3 on his list. So we're in agreement
for
there.
Future Pain, have you played his number 1 worst?
No, I don't think I've played his 1 or 2, so I'm looking forward to those.
Well, do you have anything else to talk about with long range, or shall we move on to the good life?
No, you've got all the questions and stuff. You said one of your questions was, what is your favorite moment of the game? And my favorite moment was when the credits rolled and the game was done.
Yeah, I have a feeling we're not going to be doing a roundtable tonight, just because that's the other thing about bad games is that they're a lot of times they're pretty forgettable. Like I couldn't tell you the name of a character in the game that I played at all. I could tell you what they look like. Fish guy, lion guy,
Yeah. Another thing, the menu system's dull. The graphics, just nothing are really impressive. And if you were curious how the battles look, it's basically done in the Phantasy Star vein where you don't see your characters,
Mm.
except they don't even like show sprites of them attacking. So I guess it's kind of like old school Dragon Quest in that regard. You just see the enemy, you do your attacks, and then they do their attacks, and that's it. There's very little in the way of interesting designs in the battles. They're dreadful.
That
I,
giant level up is very just frightening.
Oh yeah, the level up is nice because you get all your life back, but yeah, that's
Uh,
it.
the big letters that scroll across the screen that say like LEVE.
And they really wanted you to know. You got slightly stronger. Now grind 5 more levels before you can see a difference.
Yeah.
I've sometimes jokingly called that kind of battle style the RPG Maker battle style
Ah,
too,
yes,
since
definitely. Yep.
I don't want to say it's necessarily lazy, but it's definitely one that games with that lack in art style tends to lean on, to put it nicely.
While more difficult to write about, I will maintain lazy and bland is better than bad any day.
True.
Like I've played some decent RPG Maker games, including like I made this game and I didn't know how to change the defaults in RPG Maker. And like, okay, like, oh, this wasn't that bad. Usually they don't make it that long. So that's was one of your positives about Loarez here, right? Was it wasn't that long.
I mean, I did have to grind a lot. So,
Oh yeah.
when I say it wasn't that long, if I didn't have to grind, it wouldn't have been that long. But the
Mm.
grinding probably added 2 or 5 more hours of gameplay.
So, Dalindar, do you want to tell us about the good life? Because I seemed like I'd followed the Kickstarter for this, though not very closely, but we did have a lot of stories about it on RPG Cast, and then it came out and just landed with a thud.
Yeah, I I wish that I had not spoken with a friend at work about Swery because Deadly Premonitions was recently mentioned. Like, hey, this game's from the same developer. I'll
Mhm.
see what weird, quirky behavior and conversation comes up because I heard that was entertaining. Then I got this, and probably making it the worst version, I also played it on the Switch. So take the visuals on this game, which is I went in to refresh my memory a bit by watching the announcement trailer, just to be like, oh, this is really bad. And I'm going to refer to a few of the top comments because they're just that great. I'm just going to steal this one. Why does this look like a 3DS game and PS4 game at the same time? And that's accurate, but also if you took both those visuals, shook them in a magic 8 ball, and said bad PS2, that's about all you're getting out of it. And the actual gameplay itself was so, how do I try to explain it? It's a life sim that didn't flesh out the life sim aspects, a detective game where there's no real mystery and everything you do happen to track down is just bad jokes for the most part. And it's an RPG in that there's one boss you actually have to fight. The combat system otherwise is never really used, except when you're wandering too much in the wilderness and you get attacked by an animal that can kill you immediately. And it's also very slow action combat. So you're basically meant to run away, but running away is also slow because that's one. And like, there's many issues with this game, but one of the bigger ones is it's a explorative detective game with life sim where you're supposed to move around and it feels like molasses. Even if you go fast, like the distance between everything, like it just, my recollection at least has this game taking forever to go from point A to point B for everything. And then it wants you to explore, talk to these people. They're quirky and entertaining, we swear. And it's just, can I stop now? Just everything doesn't matter what sentiment it was. It was, can they stop now? Was about all I thought the entire 20ish hours I played this game.
Question:
And
Does Kanye West's The Good Life play in the background in this game at all?
I don't think so. No.
That's a shame. That was when Kanye wasn't so crazy, or at least he didn't show it.
Mm.
Good song.
Yeah, it's I don't remember anything about the soundtrack that isn't necessarily like, maybe it's a surprise gem to some people, but like I don't remember any aspect from that. The voice acting was very. Do you ever see like a sitcom where they try to do like an old British sitcom, but it was one that's not popular, so everyone's trying to ape the dry humor, but they don't know how to do it right?
Yes.
That's kind of the entire vibe of this game, and like trying to just bring up here. There's clipping that happens like when your character, like they do wacky, but they don't follow it up. Like I have a screenshot in my review of it where your character's dressed up like it was an 18th century Victorian era, and you're riding a sheep with a glowing top hat. And it's like, okay, that would be cool. But then you have clipping, the fact that looks blah, and everything like the backgrounds and surroundings also look like La Juarez. So it's just like being quirky for the sake of it. Like you meet a photographer character who uses they say lobster every time you see them, not lobster, LOBSTAH exclamation point, lobster.
Lobster.
Grade A job there. Someone got paid to do that over and over again. Got it. And there's moments where they try to be self-degrading in a funny way. Like, oh, this mystery definitely makes no sense. How silly is this? Like when your protagonist is saying they're wasting their time and you're agreeing with them and not going, haha, that's so funny. Maybe not the right game to have that type of humor.
Yeah, really.
And it, like, if you there's some parts, like I know, Kelly, why you would have been interested in it. You can transform into a cat.
Yeah, that was the main draw, was everybody turns into animals at night.
Yes. And while you're a cat, it has that very janky looking animation when you do a jump, where it's just like everything freezes and moves up. So that's the highlight of being a cat, is jumping around, because you explore far enough. Some of the things that attack you are things that are like, oh, you're a cat in the wilderness. They're going to attack you as a badger. I'm like, well, you're a house cat. You ain't going to survive that. You have 5 health points and they can do 2.5 each hit. It's like, okay, you run away. And you don't even get the option to do that till too far into the game, where like 10 hours in, it felt like, or if you get it earlier, you don't really utilize it. Because I remember it was mostly at the end of the game where you could move back and forth, like and transform into an animal.
And that was the main selling point, it seemed like.
And like again, maybe I just don't. I blocked a lot of this from my memory. It was in my earlier reviewing years where whatever's available, I went, this seems the most interesting, and then I end up paying for it because something much cooler comes out like the next day, and like, wait, I'm playing this now? Why am I still playing this now?
So I see, checking out your review for the game, you gave it a 2.0 out of 5. So is that the worst game you've reviewed for the website so far?
It is the second lowest score, and one of my biggest regrets working for the site is I didn't know how to fight to make this a worse one. What I wrote is a 2 out of 5, but it didn't quite get across to me for me to realize, like, there was just a little bit of a disconnect, that I wrote it too nicely. Like I needed to be meaner, and I wanted to be meaner, but I didn't know I was allowed to be mean.
What is our lowest scored game on the website? I don't know if I can.
Well, I mean, we've got ones.
I have a 1.5 that I ended up doing after.
Oh, I got a 1.5. Yeah.
Nice.
And the only reason the 1.5 I was fine with putting lower than this, because by far Good Life is the worst game I've ever beaten, is Good Life only took 15 to 20 hours. The 1.5 I gave was 80 plus hours. So,
No.
Ooh, wow.
It's dedication.
Yeah. That is. I might have just quit the site after 60 hours.
Oh, there's a couple of games I'll never stop ragging on as a result of the time I put into it. I just made, at least so far during our conversation here tonight, I wanted to focus on the good life because I was never going to bring this up anywhere else. I wasn't on any podcasts at this point in 2021. I joined after, like I've talked Fate Seeker 2, I've talked about how buggy Rogue Trader is, and I would gladly play Rogue Trader in its buggy state for the 187 hours than even think about replaying Good Life for 20. Like, this was the biggest waste of my time I've ever had turning on a game. I would have I would have found a way, like if I had gotten this, if someone gifted it to me, I would have actually thrown it at their door. Like, put it back into the case, and I would have whipped it at their front door and walked away.
Yeah, unfortunately with these kind of games, it's not even it's so bad it's good. It's just like I played it, I'm warning you not to play it kind of thing. Like,
Yes.
You're doing community service there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was gonna say you had to have beaten this to been able to have reviewed it. How did you get through it?
100% spike.
Gotcha.
I'm a person, when I do a review, whether it's good or bad, I will make it to the end credits so I can talk about it. This was something where I look after the fact, like, because I'm completely embargo. I don't look at anything, including how it's being reviewed, until after. And if you go on to Metacritic and you see it's like, oh, it's pretty bad, it has like a 50 something. Like, no, there's someone that was silly enough to give it a 70. If I didn't give this a 2 out of 5, people might think this is a weird mixed game. I should try it. Like, no, you will get dropped.
You must warn people.
The people that gave it a high score must be like friends of the creators or something.
Or just love anything that Swery does.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with them, so
Yeah, I had to look up who that was too.
I thought when I was reading Dalandar's review that he was doing some QWERTY kind of thing, and I was like, okay, yeah, sure, swear it up.
Yeah, he's a quirky developer that started with, like, he's done some, at best, everyone kind of goes, oh, that was weird, like Spy Fiction on the PS2, Deadly Premonition series. He did a couple of them. He worked with Suda 54 on Hotel Barcelona, which also, when it came out, was like, why is this a thing? Like, it doesn't seem to be learning, and at most, like, there's interesting ideas. Like, even the worst game out there has something, and like this tries. It's just, I find personally the most subjective thing that is just hard when it's bad is humor. So I'm playing this game as a comedy on top of being I also don't like life sims, for the record. So maybe like there is someone out there that could say this is just an inoffensive 4 or 5 out of 10 type thing. But you take a genre where I needed to be convinced that this was worth my time and give me nothing more to it. This was lucky to get through enough for me to think like a 2. This should have been a 1.
Well, it sounds like it was a game that didn't know what it wanted to be, whether it wanted to be a life sim or an action RPG or a detective story, and
I mean, it
could have benefited from just picking a lane.
from what Dalandar said, I don't think it thought much of being an action RPG since there wasn't much action RPG elements to experience.
I'm not even sure the final, like, because there's like maybe 2 or 3 instances that you can call bosses. And I'm pretty sure, if I remember it correctly, even the final boss doesn't involve combat. It involves things like, when it does this move, if you hide in this area, it hurts itself type stuff. So you're not actually ever attacking, and there's no skill trees or level ups. It's the Legend of Zelda style aspect of RPG or action RPG, where you just have your health bar and you run up and you do a swipe. Except, of course, Zelda has a lot more interesting aspects to it. There's actual fun gameplay. This is just, you walk up, your little cat character does a swipe with its right paw, and that's it.
Ouch.
And like the type of juvenile humor that is in here is expected as well. I don't know if it's cat and dog, but like, you pee. Cool. What like, instead of games where you walk around and you can be like, you can pet the cat, this is, you are a cat, now pee on things. Like, there's no point to it other than you're peeing on things.
Yeah, that sounds like a weird choice.
And it's just so janky at the best of parts. And like the life sim mixes with farming at aspects where you make it back to your homestead and you take a look at your emails and if someone sent you mail you can plant potato seeds and stuff like that. And it makes you interact with that side of it, even if it's almost like everything in this honestly feels like a throwaway, but they make you jump into each half-baked aspect at least once for various points of the main quest. Like the point, absolutely despise stealth 99% of the time. I've played games with stealth in it, like Dying Light 2, you're supposed to sneak around. You're surrounded by zombies. There's a spot where you get very tense. You're surrounded by all these, like, they'll kill you if they find you. I made it through that by running to the exit before they could touch me. That's the type of stealth I typically do in games. So they give you a point where it's the bad form of stealth where you have to prevent. It's almost like again, I'm probably forgetting exactly what they look like, but they reminded me in my memory right now of the Buckingham Palace guards, and you're trying to obtain proof that they're smuggling something. So you're sneaking around, and these guards are just walking up and down hallways. And if you've played a game with bad stealth, and they're like, oh, they saw you from around the corner, even though there's 3 walls and clipping in the way, that happens over and over. And I'm like, it's just an hour and a half of me trying to sneak through this area. And
yeah, I hate games with forced stealth in them, or stealth that's a secondary gameplay element that just does not work.
And that's basically this entire game, is somehow finding a way to take every secondary this doesn't work aspect and put it into one spot saying you should have fun with this. And protagonist, I'm reading through my review. I heard it as soon as I read it. The protagonist constantly shouts her catchphrases, "Yeah, baby," or "Goddamn hellhole." So yeah, see, like there's some humor such as this might be charming if it wasn't so inaccurate in its own case, was the sentence I used. So it's just one-note quirky characters that, as a throwback or you're watching a trailer, it catches your eye just enough to trick you into maybe this is just one of those so bad it's good or so weird. And no, don't do it. I almost want to say people should play Chemco RPGs, not this.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Shots fired.
Whoa.
Chemco.
All
bad.
right. Well, if Chemco's bad, what else is bad out there? Kelly, should you or I go? Or I saw a wild Wheels approached.
Yo, what's up?
Hey, Will.
Hey.
Hey,
Why don't you go, since your series is kind of known for being lesser quality? We
Oh,
don't
don't
have
tell.
Tam. Yeah, we don't have Tam on here to defend Nep Nep.
Yep.
yeah, but you have me. Hello.
But have you played this, Nep Nep?
Yeah, I have, yes. And I like it.
You like Super
Oh,
Nep Nep?
Defender.
Oh, no.
It's fine.
So I will say, my memories of this are worse than the review I wrote. Like I expected to pull up this review today, and I mean this is from September of 2019. So here we are, almost 7 years later. So and this is something I remember, like what Dalendar said. I wish I would have given it a lower score. Thinking back 7 years on it, I wish I would have given this a lower score. Now we're talking Super Neptunia RPG. I think I'd been with the site all of 1 year. Looking at the date here, I'd been here all of a year when I wrote this one. And I did not get a Switch until April of 2019. I was a couple years late on the whole Nintendo Switch. I had so many 3DS games to play. I was fine. I'd had so many DS and 3DS backlogs that I finally get to the Switch and I'm like, yay, I'll play whatever. And I think I'd tried a couple of the Neptunia games on Vita, because all the remakes of the first 3, the the RE editions wheels,
Yes.
isn't that what? Yeah. So I had all those on Vita, and I'd played around with them for a little bit. And I'm like, oh, these aren't bad. I didn't go through and play all the way to the end, but I was like, these are funny enough, cute enough. Obviously, listen, they're not 5 out of 5 games, but sometimes you need the just kind of trashy fun stuff. And I was like, oh, look at this, Super Neptunia RPG. I'll give that a go. It was not developed in-house by Compile Heart or Idea Factory. Not that Idea Factory really develops them. It's always the Compile Heart or somebody, one of their other people. But they left this to a Canadian company called Artisan Studios. Now, remember that name. You're going to hear it again tonight. Yep. So I started at the game, and you know what? It was kind of interesting. It had a story that wasn't... Neptunia games are all very self-referential and video game in general referentials. The games are always in the world of game industry.
Yeah.
And they're all references to video game consoles that either came out or ones that got canceled. You know, you got Xbox Land, you got PlayStation Land, although they're, named something a little bit different than that. And
Legally distinct.
Yeah, legally distinct PlayStation Land. And all the enemies can usually be tracked back to games. Like the most common one is I think it's a Dogo.
Yeah.
Dogo. Basically, it's a Dragon Quest slime with a tail, ears, and a more prominent nose. Well, slimes don't have noses, so a nose. So just put it that way. They took a Dragon Quest slime and added 3 other features to it, and now you got the Dogos. And you get different Dogos throughout the game, the red Dogo and whatever. I think the best part about this game might have been the first battle. Neptune picks up a Dragon Quest Cypress stick, fights, which is usually the first thing you start with in a Dragon Quest game as your weapon, or at least it was the first one. A lot of other games, you might start with a copper sword, pretty weak, but Cypress stick is definitely something in every Dragon Quest game. You start fighting the Dogos. She yells out, "I choose you!" as she attacks. And when she wins, she whistles the Final Fantasy victory fanfare.
Okay.
So, all in one battle, wow, that was a tour de force right there. You know what? You just hit 3 gigantic franchises. That was pretty cool. And then the rest of it just totally falls apart. It is a 2D game. The story revolves around her dealing with this world that's all in 2D, and there are edicts from the king that you can't evolve to 3D. No, it's a whole meta commentary on late 90s gaming where 3D gaming was coming out, and people were like, no, 2D's better, and it's a 2D game. So compared to all the other games in this series that are 3D, and I say that just barely, but they are. And it has a lot of platforming. The platforming was just bleh.
It's pretty meh.
It is pretty meh. And I think one of the worst parts was the maps weren't labeled. I kept backing out to see the because it'd show you the map of the area you're in because you're switching screens. It's not all continuous. And it would show you that there were exits, but unless you memorized which exits went where, it wasn't like there was a little arrow that was like, hey, Vanilla Town or whatever. It just didn't, nothing was labeled. And I kept getting lost. It was like, okay, I've been in this screen before. I think I got to go to the top left one. And then that took me to a place, and I'm like, now there's 6 exits from this screen. Where do I need to go to? And before you get certain powers, you can't reach them all, which is fine, but you got to go back and forth a lot. And man, I don't know. Good thing I was 7 years younger there because I could eventually kind of remember where I was going. All the battles fought, you just ran into Dogus all the time. And you'd run into a Dogu on the screen, and then the battle would start, and there were no Dogus in the battle. It was just a placeholder, for every enemy. Really?
Jeez.
We couldn't animate more than one creature for the overworld? So all the overworld battles just were that? This really dumped off for me, and I look at myself giving the battle system a 2, and I can't even, for the life of me, wonder why I gave it a 2 instead of a 1. It was, I guess it was Valkyrie profile-like. You had your 4 people on the right, and you had action point gauge that moved up, and you could decide which person that you wanted to attack with the AP. And, the 4 people on the right were arranged in such a fashion that those are the 4 buttons on the right-hand side of your controller. If you're playing PlayStation, Xbox, whatever, you've got A, B, X, Y, whatever, on the right-hand side. And that's, you could pick who you wanted to attack. It just seemed like, oh my god, this could have been one character with 4 attacks instead of that. I know there were different stances that added different skills and spells, but I don't know, especially in the early game, it was really brutal. Like,
It's
had a hard
really
time.
boring early on. Very, very boring.
Yep. It was like, okay, I could just keep hitting them with the same one. You kind of learned what worked, and it was like, oh, well, this person's got the best punch for the amount of AP that I'm going to spend, so I'm just going to use that person's attack every time. And again, it became a memorization nightmare. I write that in here. Let me try to see. Let's say 4 characters in battle. 4 stances must be prepared with a great deal of skills and spells available to each character. Some were learned inherently, some available due to equipment, some mastered via repeated use in battle. The stances can be changed on the fly during the battles with the L and R, but it becomes a memorization nightmare as skills aren't shown when attacking. So I remember pausing battles and checking what they're doing, or just mash the button and get through. I wouldn't say it was super duper hard. It was just boring. It's like, oh, here we go again. Another battle with non-dogus because I ran into a dogu. Couldn't target healing spells. Wow, I don't remember that. That was horrible. They always target the character with the lowest hit point, but that's not always optimal when you got multiple characters that are low, especially if you got one that's got the attack you want the most, and you're not always wanting to do that. Save that one. I got a lovely screenshot here where good old Neptune's talking and saying, "It wasn't too interesting to me, but I thought you might like it." My caption was, "Gamers will likely agree with the first sentiment, but find it hard to agree with the second."
Yeah.
Now, I will say it looked beautiful. Like, it was, there was one of the things it was supposed to do. It was supposed to have all this hand-drawn art, and it really was. I mean, looking back at the screenshots, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember how really awesome this was. But in towns, then, that was a problem because you'd have this beautiful artwork, and looking at it, it was almost impossible to tell what could you stand on and what open doors could you go in. It was, you're looking at this beautiful painting and like, but where do I go? And you would see like beams and horizontal things that you think you could jump on, but you couldn't. And then there'd be one right next to it that looks identical, and you could. There wasn't enough visual cues to get by.
From the trailer, it almost looks like it was a beautiful matte painting, but once you start putting something in it, because I saw the animations on the jumping, and it fits exactly what I was saying about Good Life, where they don't move. It's almost like they go rigid and just somehow they're propelled. And it just looks weird, at least to me. Like, maybe I'm trying to find something to poke fun at. Like, part of the gameplay trailer after was I'm getting whiplash from switching between characters, because when you're doing that in combat, it's just so fast. It's like a blur, and it's just
Again, I can't believe I gave this a 2.5, but as Dalendar said, I didn't know I could go lower at the time. I needed Scar to tell me, don't give it a 5, don't give it a 5. don't put the middle when it's that bad. We ended up, I remember writing the caption for most disappointing game of the year for this, and I look back on that and I think, I'm like, did we really have high hopes for this?
Yeah, I mean, it looks pretty.
Yeah, I mean, it looked pretty. I mean, Wheels kind of liked it, but I don't know if most disappointing.
I kind of like it, but it's like what I expected, like a pretty mess.
Mm-hmm.
There's a trick to our awards sometimes. For this to become most disappointing meant that there was enough people that played it, thought it was interesting, and also went, this is bad. Because I could play a 2 out of 5 indie game that I reviewed, but no one's ever heard of it. When they see the 2 out of 5, they're never going to try it. But
yeah, I mean, my positives here were, I was laughing about this beforehand. I was like, it was bright, beautiful 2D graphics. The music and the voice acting are well done. It always amazes me that like this can have decent voice acting, and yet Atelier can't afford that. I'm I'm sure that this company paid peanuts to people to do this voice acting. Humorous moments aplenty with tons of references to other RPG series, and the story scenes move along nice and quickly. I will say, because this was like looking hand drawn, and had little voice text boxes. Oh my God, there's some Super Neptunia games that you're just scrolling through a lot of text. Like, just shut up and let me get back to what I'm doing. This one actually moved along pretty fast. So, I mean, but there I am mentioning humorous moments, but it moved along fast. So, it did have some choppy animations. Let's see, these are budget titles. Choppy animations, lack of variation in the on-screen encounters. Yeah, that's because the Dogu was everything. The battles and the maps are difficult to navigate due to lack of labels. Literally, just a couple little things on there really could have fixed this a great big deal. Keep me from getting lost both in battle and in the overworld, the platforming, whatever. And the battle system, like I said, it was just a mess. It had multiple issues from different standpoints there. I don't know. Like I said, maybe this isn't the worst game ever, and I've definitely reviewed something a full point lower than it, that if we have time, I'll bring up later. I mean, I played this through all the way to the end, but then again, I was kind of new to the site, and I'm like, I'm going to do that. I'm not going to nope out like I did a couple of years later with, I think it was Neptunia VII, not 7, but 5.2, whatever, or not even that.
V2, I think.
V2, you're right. It was not even 5, because it's just V2. And
It's
my gosh.
the 4th entry.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, because it's not 5, because there was no 4.
So
that one, I kind of noped out after 5 or 6 hours. That one added so many. It was the opposite of this. It wasn't basic. Like, you're freaking turning into super people and mech suits, and like the battle system, I was lost in like 6 hours. I'm like, what is going on?
Did you play like the original release of that, or is that on PS4?
It was a Switch port in 2020.
Okay.
I remember I played it over COVID, and even locked in my house with nothing else to do, I found better stuff to do. I don't even think I deep looked it. I don't know. I might have just been like, I'm not gonna. Nobody was aching for that. That might have been one that had been like sitting around for a week, and I was like, I'll try it.
Yeah, I do have to address the entertaining elephant of in the room of your first intro sentence where you mentioned RPGamer staff is discussed on Backtrack something. So I thought I'd try this out. Sometimes we do a disservice when we talk about things.
Well, also, that was I got that Backtrack episode to happen. That was back convincing Phil, like, hey, let's do, Bad Idea Factory. And much like our Chemco one, we all played Compile Heart games. Although, I will say, I played the Neptunia Muso game. Was it like Super Neptunia Unlimited or something like Unlimited U?
No War Black or no, wait, that was the
no.
game.
There's other ones, yeah, but no, it was like Unlimited U or something like that. I remember there was a U in
the
it.
one where they lose their clothes when you take damage.
Yep, that was it. You say that, and I'm like, oh yeah. It also had no background. They spent all the money on the losing their clothes. There were no backgrounds. You'd go into these Muso battles, and it was just gray background, pattern ground. You weren't in an environment. It was definitely like, wow. And you were just fighting little Pac-Mans and ghosts and all the legally distinct other animals. But I finished it. It was like 10 hours. I got through it. It was pretty good. There's some little skeevy parts with, what the hell? They're all skeevy. But they had some young twins in that one that I was like, wow, this is really even younger than her, the title character. But you know what? That was probably it, Dalindar. That one, I played one of the better of the bad games, and it kept me going. Yep. It led me to this. It led me to VII. I think it was after that I was like, okay, I'm done. Kel used to talk about me on RPG Cast, and she's like, oh, Matt likes these games. And I was like, no! I'm saying that!
I misunderstood completely.
No, I mean, after that episode, the Backtrack in 2018 or whatever, I had not learned my lesson yet, so you were not
I'm still learning the
correct.
lesson when it comes to Idea Factory. I just reviewed it 2 out of 5 earlier this year. So
Well,
Yeah, I mean,
look on the bright side; they're better than they used to be. Which game did you review?
Calamity Angel special
Okay,
delivery.
yeah, I mean that's not
That was
great, but
bad.
it is miles better than their old bad games like Agarest War and all that
oh
nonsense,
God, I
I'd rather
remember
play
or
Agrest War.
Cross
how many
Edge.
years.
I enjoyed some of Cross Edge compared to
Yeah,
Calamity Angels.
really
Yeah,
fascinating.
Calamity Angels, the game fights you. Like you legitimately try telling your character to do something, and they'll say, "No, I don't want to," and don't do it.
Well,
It's like having a badge too high in Pokemon for the entire game.
I have an Idea Factory game you should play and compare it to.
Okay.
Go
But
for it.
we'll wait for my turn. Or is it
Well,
my
I was
turn?
gonna say, feel free. So that was my not so super Neptunia RPG review. If you read the site, it sounds a lot better than I don't know. But 7 years later, I've played a lot of games, and that's still pretty low. Also, avoid Monster Harvest, but that's another day, another story.
And welcome back to RPG Backtrack, where we are getting into our April Fool's Day special. April 1st brings the worst, talking about some of the worst games we have ever played. Because normally we are pretty positive on this show, but I figured for April Fool's we would go negative. Whether or not we want to be sarcastic and pretend the game is good or not, I don't know. I'm not going to go through that rigmarole because I hated the games that I played. That being said, we've got Jahwon and Wheels and me going this segment. Jahwon, I want to know about this crap. I wrote it down. Astor Blade of the Monolith. It sounds pretty bad.
It was pretty bad. So so I think this was my first review for the website. Like I think this was the first code I ever got. And so I went through the game like from beginning to end. It's a very generic 3D like adventure game, action adventure game. You're playing as this little chibi guy who goes through different small worlds with your sword, and you're apparently like a maker or something. You're some sort of like special creature that comes from Earth, but it's not actually human. But the humans that were there were created you. Do you see what I'm saying about the lore of this story? Mind you, the game is only about an 8-hour adventure.
It sounds mildly confusing.
It's very, very confusing. It seems like the writers, like whoever was writing at the time, didn't really have a consistent through line they wanted to go with, because the game has no story for like 70% of the duration. And then right at the end, it kind of just speed runs villains into the story because there's no real villains. So your character is supposed to be basically working to help like reconsolidate this village that he's a part of. And he's supposed to be going around trying to get people and these different structures together to help the local areas to come together. That's what his goal is, or whatever, or anything. And I guess the idea is that the game is supposed to be slice of life or episodic in terms of like each world has its own little mini story. But the game actually lacks in a lot of things like dialogue. The main character doesn't speak. We're in what's it called? Silent protagonist land now. So, and there's no real dialogue choices either. So there's nothing to really implant. So he just pantomimes a response, and everyone of course responds to him. So the story keeps going. So you do feel a little bit taken out because you're not really an active character. If that's hard to really put into words, I'd say like if you play like a game like Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, I feel like playing that game, you become Henry of Skalitz after a while. Or playing like The Witcher, you become Geralt of Rivia. So in this game, you should become Aster, but you're not actually becoming Aster because Aster is not a character because he has no voice.
Even the Legend of Zelda games like Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom sound like they do a better job of making you feel like Link
Yeah,
compared to this.
yeah, you can even be Link. You could even be the Wolf Boy from Tunic. I feel like even he had some characterization. That was obviously not that those but Zelda has less dialogue in most of its games than like Disco Elysium. Like other games have way more dialogue than most Zelda games put together.
Mm.
But at the same time, like yeah, you can get to the class into the fantasy of being this person. But I just don't think that that happened with Aster because the game didn't really have a story to tell. Because Link still has characterization through all of his animations. That goes into like the budget. This was obviously an indie game developed like on a 1A budget or whatever. I never did any big research into it because from what I've understood, it seems like the developer went defunct right after its release. Yeah, like one or two things, and then that was it. But that's what I understood. It's a very cheap game. Your character's growth is very moderated by the story. The combat is almost Unity engine like with some of the ways that the assets get like flown around and everything, and how nothing really has any weight to it. Like the game lacks. It seems like if you watch the animations, I think I said it in my review that the animations are big, but the actual impact of them is minuscule. It's like it looks like a giant stick of dynamite, but then when it actually goes boom, you just hear a firecracker.
Mm-hmm.
It's very off-putting to have the character doing these big moves that are flashy but don't do anything. Also, the game's combat doesn't really gain any challenge. I'm not a big person on like having huge challenges in your action games. Like, you know, doesn't everything have to be a challenge, but you should in some way, shape, or form give the players some obstacles. There's another game I would actually I'd actually want to talk about, but it's something I play. It's very similar to this with South by Midnight, where like the character, or at least in that game, there are more more enemies and stuff as it goes. Aster pretty much has the same enemy types for like after the first world or whatever, the first main area, you've pretty much seen every enemy type. And then the extra versions of them have like one gimmick, like, oh, these guys shoot lasers, or oh, these guys fly, you know, cue the Star Wars they fly now meme. But that's the only difference between any real enemies. It's just like small micro differences that don't really add up to any change in the challenge. Because Aster can still like just go at them with melee attacks. It's like 40k logic, where even if the person's far away from you, you can somehow run at them with a sword and they'll still get, you know, shredded by you, even if they have a gun or a ranged weapon.
The trailers that I'm looking at make it seem like, of continuing your firecracker analogy, that everything's just a big health sponge.
Mm-hmm.
That would be accurate.
It's for me, because I also would agree I'm not good at action games, but I don't need it to be difficult. I want it to feel exciting or rewarding to accomplish. And this just feels like you're being punished for wanting to look like you're having fun.
Yeah. And then one of the things that gets to you about it is that the game's not like hard. There are just moments where there's just natural frustrations. So I think the second world is a desert area, if I remember correctly. Oh, 1 second. So in the second world is a desert. You're supposed to be going from area to area of this desert, and you're supposed to and while you're going around, each area is supposed to have like a checkpoint, but the checkpoints are actually quite far away from each other because the character moves very slow. Like his running speed is not actually that great. And I think if I remember correctly, you don't even get a mount or anything for those long level areas. So you just kind of like walk for a long time to get to the next location. So I died a good few times in that area, sometimes due to glitches, sometimes because I was just gauntleting, like slogging it through the desert and couldn't seem to make my way to like the next checkpoint, thinking that, oh, okay, this will be it. And then it's not. And that's also when I noticed that the combat doesn't really have like any sort of fairness when it comes to the challenge that can exist. It's very arbitrary, like just overwhelming you with like unnecessary levels of enemies, like enemies that you obviously at that point in the game you only have one weapon. You can't fight all of them, so you end up doing stuff like cheesing. Like I had to cheese through like one or two areas because of that.
And it seems like a shame because I think the trailers do a good job of making the combat look kind of fun, but from what it sounds like, it doesn't sound very fun.
Yeah, it
So-
wasn't. Go ahead. What was it?
That sounds like one of the through lines for our games that are picked here is when you take a first glance, there's something about it that's like, this will be fun. But then when you actually get any time put into it, you, whether quickly or not, just start realizing how wrong the choice was of like these trailers did an amazing job selling false goods.
Yeah. I think that's always I think that's what will always make something like the worst game you've ever played. You'll probably play a game that's competent. Like you can play a game that's competently designed. The developers have obviously like taken, basic game elements and just coalesced them together to make a decent product. So you can see that it works. But then I think what usually for me would make it so bad is that you're disappointed. The disappointment of like what you expected versus what you got is always going to be like worse in the long run. I think that's what makes me feel upset with any like game I purchase, is that I'm like, oh, well, this isn't what I was really expecting. And I think that goes back to like what you both brought up about like the marketing and the trailers. Like if you market something and you turn around and you give people a certain impression and then the game is just not that, it's like, okay, well, that can be good or bad. Like, for example, if you had a bad trailer, but then the game's great, that works out for you. But if you have a trailer that doesn't fit because the actual product is going to be negative or bad, then it doesn't really help. It's just piss poor marketing on the devs part.
So what kind of review did you end up giving this?
I think I gave it like a 2 out of 5. I didn't want to give a 1 because, you don't want to come in to writing on a website as a new person, just giving 1-star reviews. Kind of, it gives very, very much Simon Cowell energy. So I instead decided, I think that 2-star, I think someone else mentioned it, said something like maybe push it to like 2.5, but it was about a 2-star review. In my heart, it was a 1-star game. It truly was a 1-star.
Been there.
Game.
Yep.
In fact, that happens a lot. It's like if I give it a lower review than 4, in my head, I think probably it's like a whole star lower. But I didn't want it. But I had to be fair in life.
Yeah.
It sounds like that's a through line through our entire show tonight. Is a lot of these were amongst our first reviews that we didn't want to review lower because we didn't want to seem mean.
Mm.
Am I wrong? Because
You're not.
No.
You're not wrong. I mean, I think if I could talk about another game like Capes, that was another one that I didn't really like. Ryan's laughing because that's another one I really didn't care for. But
I remember messaging you as soon as you got it and went, really? Why?
Yeah, because you seem to have known. I was the fool who did not know that game was going to be trash. But he already knew, could have told me from a mile away, and I still wouldn't have listened because I thought that it was going to be a fun superhero game. But then it wasn't Midnight Suns, nor was it XCOM. So it just wasn't anything that anyone would want. But I also gave that a much more kind review, even though I personally couldn't even get to the full ending because the ending was less, because like the last few missions just become like very hard.
One of the tricks, at least for me, when it comes to some of these score aspects is because we take such pride in playing these games through to completion that I don't mind it, like for myself, giving it 2 out of 5, because this 2 out of 5 would not have been played further than 45 minutes if it was not for the purposes of a review.
That's true.
Giving a game 2.5, like when there's so many 4s and 5s out there that exist that I haven't played yet, am I really going to keep playing 30 more hours of this 2 out of 5 or 2.5? Not typically, but for me personally, I love writing so much, and honestly, writing about something when it's bad, or like tonight, talking about something when it's bad, is just very entertaining.
Yeah, it is. I think you could find some very interesting wordplay to use. Like, I think it was Seth on YouTube. He made a joke in his Company of Heroes 2 review where he said, in lieu of inspiration, hate is a valid source of energy.
Yeah.
So something similar like that.
One of my most proud moments for actually getting a joke entered into a review was for I reviewed a game called Fate Seeker 2, and just bringing it up now, I had said sometimes things are straightforward, other times it's akin to opening a door with a roundhouse kick. Sure, it gets the job done, but it's not the easiest choice.
Mm.
And you're not going to put a line that's poking fun at the game and still be something enjoyable that you remember like that into a 4 out of 5 game, because you want to say something nice and good about it.
Mm.
So every once in a while, playing something, I never pick anything willingly that I think would be a 2 out of 5. But when I get tricked and duped, like from trailers and fooled, it's going to be known.
Yeah. I think my etiquette of it all is just like you have to turn around and really think like when you review, especially when you're at the ending, really take into account that this is what the whole game is. That's the one thing with reviewing to endings is that you kind of start to realize that this is actually all the game is. So you really don't have anything to like hope for. So like your 3 or your 4 is a real genuine 4. Like it's good. It's a 4-star from beginning to end or whatever. Like maybe it has a few bumps that makes it a 4, but it's still there. But like, because you don't do that, you might review too high. I get what you mean, because it's like you might review too high and then turn around and start making mistakes. Like, oh, this game is really great, and then you realize like 10 hours after you stop playing, that game actually becomes bad. Like really, really bad, introducing stupid systems.
Yeah.
And some actually do come up later. Hello?
Well, sorry, I was waiting to see if anybody was going to pop up. So is that all you want to talk about with
Aster?
Aster, Blade of the Monolith?
Yeah, I think that's kind of that's kind of it. If I was going to recommend it to anyone to engage with it, I think there's some sort of like cutscene compilation probably on YouTube. You can actually watch it. And it can be an interesting little 30 minutes or whatever. If you have nothing else to do at work. Because the story gets a little unhinged. I don't know. It's like strange. Like I told you, like the humans are technically gods to the creatures that are there. So it's kind of like this weird thing where where humans are deities because of their technology. I was very it would have worked for a different game with a different setup and everything. It could have worked. Maybe an art house type thing.
I don't know why this analogy just popped into my head, but looking at the trailers and like, so this is basically if Wally huffed a lot of paint. And that's kind of what it is. Okay, let's go.
That's a very accurate description.
So, Wales, you've griped about this one before, but I don't know if you've done it at length, or maybe you have. I haven't listened to all
Who knows?
20 plus years of this podcast.
I've complained about it a lot of times.
And I think every time I see it on my wish list, my eShop wish list.
Why is it on your wish list?
Oh, geez. Yeah, what's wrong with
Why
you,
would
Kelly?
you do that?
Because I thought about playing it for the bit,
Oh,
but it hasn't hit.
It's
At
probably
99
better
cents
on
yet?
Switch or Steam.
It hasn't hit impulse price yet, so I haven't done it yet, pulled the trigger yet, even though I do have the PS3 version, because I bought that cheap. That was when I bought anything that NIS would publish, not knowing any better. But tell us once again about Mugen Souls.
Okay, so let's talk about Mugen Souls. I honestly I don't remember like what I reviewed before this. Like my first real review was Heroes of Might and Magic Clash of Might, the puzzle game, the puzzle RPG.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Puzzle Quest? Or-
No, the
It's
Heroes of
Clash
Might
of
and Magic
Heroes.
puzzle game.
Oh, I didn't know there was a puzzle game. My
Yeah.
bad.
Wait. You don't know there's a puzzle game? This is the one that Pause plays every time that it
Right.
gets released and talks about every time, and Chris
Yeah,
bugs
it's
it
real good.
about. It is very good.
Yeah, I played that. I think I'd reviewed the Vita version of Disgaea 3. So it's definitely before Disgaea 4. But I saw this Mugen Souls game, and I think might have some former Disgaea developers on it, or at least it gives off those vibes. So it's like, okay, it's more of an RPG, but maybe it's got some of the Disgaea silliness and like weird overleveling mechanics. So I volunteered for that, and it actually begins promising enough. Like it's got like if you've ever played any of the main Neptunia games, especially some of the original PS3 versions, it's got that like 3D combat where you move characters around when it's their turn and mash buttons for their attacks. They've used it in a bunch of games. But I mean, you start it up, it's just ridiculous moe nonsense. But like you could tell that for some reason, people at NIS put a lot of effort into localizing this game,
Hmm.
which is one of the reasons I felt very bad at how nasty I had to be. Because it's like, okay, someone clearly put a lot of work into this, and I mean, the one positive have listed here is the story occasionally provides some laughs, and that's mostly due to the localization. Like the actors they got to voice this nonsense did some work. But it really, really just falls apart. Like it's about this character that's a god and is going to try and conquer the universe or something. So there's even like weird spaceship battles and stuff, and you hang out on her spaceship, and there's a hot tub because of course there is. Of course there is. And
What you do?
yeah, and you just go into these long, tedious dungeons, and it was funny to begin with, and then it just gets really, really bad. Like the combat is busted as all hell. Like it's got these mechanics where you have to like try and bounce monsters around the arena for some reason. It's never really explained very well what the point of that is, or like how to use that effectively. So a lot of the battles, especially later battles, I was just like bouncing around monsters, just praying it killed them and saved me more pain. And occasionally it would. But and just from a technical aspect, it was just such a mess. Like once you got farther into the game, where there were more characters on the screen, like in your party and monsters, the game just chugged so much on the poor PS3. It was so bad. And like it does have like not an item world. It has this whole system where you like go through a series of battles, and that's how you can power up characters' skills and stuff. But I would like power up a skill a lot, get it like supposedly several degrees of magnitude better, which would like triple the MP cost of it, and then watch as I used up all my characters' MP to use that one skill, and it would either miss or do less damage than it had done before.
Ouch.
And it's not like this game like held any punches. Like I would have to waste time grinding and trying to figure out like what, how do I get characters better in this game? Because everything that's supposed to do it doesn't work. I think ultimately I would just not upgrade skills, and that would work better. And just like upgrade weapons and stuff, and balance enemies around the arena and pray for the best. And like this game gets hard, so and I beat it for reasons beyond my understanding.
Sounds like it needed more souls.
It needed something. I don't know what. It needed a lot. I don't even remember where the story went, because I think at some point I was just losing my mind so much that I would just skip story sequences, just in a desperate attempt to try and get to the end of this game. And I give this a 1 out of 5, in case anyone's has any doubt. Like,
So not even a fraction of the charm of some of NIS's other strategy
no,
games.
no, because I mean, it's not really their game. It's an Idea Factory game that they just did the localization for. And like I said, they put their all into it for whatever reason.
See, I wasn't aware of that because it looks like their art style.
It does, yeah, which makes me think that because I know some of their developers, maybe some of their artists eventually went over to Idea Factory at some point.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure if this is this was after that happened, but I really cannot remember. But yeah, and like I said, there was like an idea for a really fun and enjoyable game here, and maybe the story was okay. Like I said, I could not this this game was probably literally driving me insane, and I just had to finish it. Um, but I mean, it didn't matter really if the story was any good or not because the game was just like utterly broken on so many levels. Like if these systems worked, this game would have been fine. Like if I could go through the little item world thingy and level up skills and they would just obliterate everything, I probably would have had an okay time with this game. But just nothing worked, nothing made any sense. The systems were stupid. There was like weird space combat that was a waste of time. It was too much. Like if they had removed some of these systems and just like focused on making a battle system that worked and didn't like slow down to like ridiculously slow speeds in the middle of battle if there were too many characters on it, just I ooh.
Maybe it's because it's stringing it together, but I'm looking at the announcement trailer and it just looks like someone went, Final Fantasy VII summons aren't long enough and decided to just put 2 minutes of just slashing effects.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And who wants to see that every time you try doing a move? Like I get like the finishing move, like there's a reason why Mortal Kombat games have finish him and do flashy then. It's just like I hit attack and I went and got a sandwich and came back and it's still going.
I mean, I talked about this last week. Even Vanilleware's beautiful animations in Unicorn Overlord, I ended up skipping eventually because I was tired of looking at them.
Yeah, that happens in a lot of strategy RPGs. You're like, all right, I've seen this, 30 some odd times. I'm good.
And it was painful in Unicorn Overlord because it was beautiful. So I can't imagine how unpainful it is in a mediocre game.
Ugh.
So was that all you wanted to say about Mugen Souls, or did you have anything
Well,
else?
there's also the funny story of when I got the review code for something else, mysteriously in my email, there were two codes because our late and great editor-in-chief was trying to pass along a code for the sequel to this game for me to review.
Hey, maybe the
Thankfully, I
sequel made it
noticed.
better.
Maybe, like I
Maybe.
said, there was an idea for like a fun, stupid game in here that I would have enjoyed, and I don't know, maybe even playing it on PC if it like it is entirely possible that some of the brokenness I experienced was just some sort of like performance issue. So maybe on more powerful hardware it actually works. I don't know. It's still not an amazing game, no matter what. But it's frustrating to see something that could have been like a fun, goofy game. Like the Disgaea is a good concept, even if it's not always like executed great. It's cool to have like an in-depth like RPG that doesn't take itself too seriously and does fun, goofy stuff. And I'd like to see that in like a different that concept can translate to like other types of RPGs other than just strategy RPGs. I was looking forward to seeing that idea in this kind of game. And so, in addition to just being disappointed that it didn't do that well, it was just such an utter mess. It definitely broke me for a while.
It looks like Mugen Souls Z, which is the sequel, has a score of 57 on Metacritic, so it doesn't sound like it's much better.
Well, what does the first game have on Metacritic?
Good question.
Somehow better is my guess. While we look that up, I would just like to revisit and tease Kelly a little bit, saying it hadn't hit the magical price point. Wheels posted a couple weeks ago. It was $3.99.
Oh wow. Yeah,
Well,
that
If it
would
was
have been
less than
impulse.
$5 and you're still not biting, maybe it's not a wish list.
Well, I might not have checked the wish list my wish list last week. You're saying on Steam or on
It was on Steam.
Okay,
So
that's why. I have it on my Switch wish list, though.
okay.
I imagine it would be Steam Deck compatible, though I
Mugen,
can't.
Mugen Souls is average of 55 on Metacritic with 24 reviews, and RPGamer has the lowest score.
Yes.
You
Good
won.
job.
And we don't have a review of the second game because whoever ended up with the code, I remember, like, utterly broke them.
Oh no.
I forget who had it, but I almost felt bad. Almost.
There you go, Dalindar. You've got a new project. We've got a game that needs a review.
Let's see, reviews of Mugen Souls on Steam mixed.
But is it Steam Deck compatible?
I'm gonna guess not. Unknown.
Okay. Nobody
No
has
one's
been brave
tried.
enough. No one's been brave enough to try. That says a lot.
Or no one's cared enough to try.
So funny thing about reviews, Mugen Souls at least has a review. My game for tonight only had a deep look, and I could have sworn that we had a review of this up, but no, Michael Baker gave it a deep look and cited a lot of the problems that I'm citing. And another interesting factoid is I posted my game on our Backtrack channel and said, "Hey, it's on sale for anybody that wants to feel my pain." And Matt was like, "Oh my God, it's the same publisher." And I'm like, "Wait, really?" And I go to the publisher and it's like, "Well, there's only 3 games from this publisher. One of them is Astria Ascending, which is what I played. One of them is Super Neptunia RPG, which sounds like it had a lot of the same problems."
And one of them is Lowares. No, just kidding.
No, and the third one isn't out yet, but actually looks kind of promising. But I feel like that's been the theme
Don't
of
get
this
fooled.
show.
Don't get
Yeah,
fooled.
No.
that's been the theme of this show is that most of these games have a lot of style but very little substance. Because I talked about this, or I was doing the news for this game for like up until its release, and I was the one that commented that Astria Ascending looks like it was like a Vanillaware game. Because of how beautiful the graphics were. It had that 2D hand painted, very detailed character model art style. And I'm like, I'm down for anything that, apes Vanillaware, not realizing that it was more, we have Vanillaware at home, uh, and
Yeah, Vanillaware in Canada.
Vanillaware at home is the Kmart store brand of Vanillaware, not even Walmart store brand, which can be decent sometimes. No, we're talking Kmart.
They're not even a good value.
Yeah.
Great.
They
'Cause
don't even
I-
exist anymore, do they?
No, at least I don't think so.
I think in Canada they do, don't they?
Not in my city.
in your neck of the woods?
It got replaced with a Walmart 20-ish years ago. So
But Astria Ascending it is about you play as 8 different characters, all in the same party, and they are a group of demigods bestowed by this goddess that your job is to basically keep the peace in the world, and each demigod is of a different race. So the idea is that you're gods that stopped racism, but not really. And you have these demigods have 3 years to live, and the game takes place when on their 3-month expiration date. So they're getting ready to die. And I thought it was going to be this very introspective story about having only 3 months to live and trying to basically solve all the world's problems in 3 months. And the game just kind of goes absolutely nowhere. The characters were about as interesting as cardboard. And I couldn't tell you a damn thing about the characters at all. Maybe one of them I know that one of them had a son that got in trouble, and that was about it. And what sucked was that they were very interesting character designs. Like one of them was a fish person, one of them was kind of a bird person. Whoever took the time to make these characters really put a lot of love into their designs to make each one distinct and unique and a representative of their entire race. And the game just had absolutely no characterization whatsoever. Gun to my head, I could not tell you for the life of me how the story ended, other than, the demigods die and none of the status quo changed.
What's the name of the game again?
Astria Ascending.
More like Astria Descending.
Yeah, yeah.
I
But bum.
Oh,
And
Thank you.
I've played my share of bad games before, but what's worse than a game with a bad plot is a game with a plot that has so much promise and just does absolutely nothing with it.
This reminds me of a mobile game and everything except for its finished result, which is funny and sad to say that this probably would have been better as a another Eden type game where they just had the time to split out the story over 4 years.
I mean, I have played Another Eden, and there's a lot more plot in Another Eden than this turd.
Yeah.
At least they're kind of trying to, put in a plot in Another Eden. Granted, I haven't gotten very far in it because when it comes to mobile games, I always forget that I have them. But this just, I was so disappointed. I wanted to like this game so much, and I played it. Played the entire thing, and it was just, to me, it was just dull and awful. The battle system was a battle system. It was turn-based. It wasn't like not Super Dimension Neptunia, Super Neptunia RPG, where each character had turns. So, and you could, you had you had all 8 characters in your party, but you could, it was only 4 of them in the front, and you could swap them out at any time. Uh, and each character had a tech tree that was kind of a constellation system that you could get them through. And there was also subclasses and stuff like that, but it really didn't feel like your choices made any difference. You still got your generic spellcaster and melee character and stuff like that. And then the environments were all 2D side-scrolling environments. It was very Valkyrie profile, and that you had a ring that you could use to solve puzzles and jump around and all of that fun stuff. And like the towns and stuff you guys see in the screenshots, the towns and stuff were gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous to look at. And the puzzles were, or not the puzzles, the dungeons and stuff were. But once again, all sorts of style and absolutely no substance. The game was also buggy as hell, crashed multiple times on my PS5, and had a very interesting bug where I'm sitting there, and when I'm playing video games, when I'm doing like action levels, I typically have like a podcast going in the background while I'm playing, and I have the volume kind of a little bit low so I could still hear the music somewhat, but that way it's not drowning over my podcast. And I noticed that it's like the music seems like it's gotten louder. So I go into the in-game menu and turn it down a little bit. And then I keep playing and I notice again like it's gotten louder. And it's like, have the cats sat on my remote and they keep turning up the volume? So I keep turning it down and the game keeps getting louder and louder to the point where it's like peaking on my speakers and like actually being distorted. And I'm like, this is, the cats haven't sat on my remote. This isn't my TV going out. This is the game. Some glitch in this game is making the music go absolutely bonkers. Just keep creeping up in volume. But I haven't touched a thing. And eventually it got so bad that I had to back out of the game and restart. And luckily that fixed it. But that was the most maddening thing I have ever experienced in a game. Like a little goblin in the background just slowly creeping up the volume. And I've never had that happen in a game before, and it drove me up the wall. And yeah, even though my old favorite to bitch about when we're talking about bad games is Lunar Dragon Song, I realized that this is the first game in a while that I played and finished and was like, wow, I should have played something else. And the first one in a while where it was like I can't believe I wasted a Christmas present on this. Because I put stuff that looks interesting that I hadn't picked up over the course of the year on my Christmas list, and my husband, who likes to spoil me, usually gets me just about everything that I put on my Amazon list, which I appreciate. And then I felt bad. It's like, I'm sorry, baby, that game you got me was terrible. But I had no idea because there was so little coverage about it, and I think Michael Baker's Deep Look came out much later, compared to when I played it. So, yay. That was my bad game. I don't know if anybody has any questions.
It's, for Astria Ascending, the one thing we've learned for sure from this is if Artisan Studio does anything that makes you go, Valkyrie profile, you've run far away.
Yeah.
The third game they're making is action, so especially if that somehow turns out good, like they should never touch turn-based again.
I have a feeling. I have a feeling it's not going to be good.
Yeah.
I will play a demo before I touch it, put it that way, because I even got sucked in. It's like, you know what, this looks kind of cool. I like the art style, but they're 0 for 2 now. Third time's the charm.
Maybe someone should hire them to do the art, and someone else can make the gameplay.
Yeah, and that's what makes
that seems like the missing piece.
And that's what makes
Very
it
much
so disappointing is that they have some of the most gorgeous art I've seen for RPGs, but their gameplay sucks.
With the exception of Mugen Souls, though, a lot of what we've talked about tonight has followed with we've been tricked again by similar as a follow-up. So this just seems to be another one of those perfect developers where, like, I still remember Astria Ascending from a Nintendo Direct, and I remember being excited about it for years.
Doesn't it boast some old Square Enix artist or something on it?
It could entirely be possible.
I was looking at the new game there, Lost Helden, and it has a soundtrack from Hitoshi Sakamoto, who did Final Fantasy 12 and Tactics music. So there's a good chance that there are others somehow involved too.
And yeah, I just and this game was so bad I wanted to write a review for it, but I thought, no, I had a hard enough time writing about something that I thought was just okay. I don't know if I can write about this one without going full AVGN.
I mean, could you? I would read that. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, but I don't think our dear editor-in-chief would want
probably
that.
not.
I mean, today would be the day to do it.
Yeah.
Somehow make it more PG or PG-13 and you'd be fine. It's just hard to swear without swearing sometimes.
Just make it like Final Fantasy VII on the PS1 with just all the squiggly lines.
Yeah. So that was our bad game show.
Indeed,
like we said,
it was.
Like we said at the top, you can't appreciate good games without playing a bad one every now and then. And sometimes you seek out a bad game, like I have before with Agorist Wars, and sometimes a bad game sneaks up on you, like with Astria Ascending.
The one way I've learned as compared to some of these instances where I would have reviewed and just been like, this is a bad game, let me go through to the end, is I've started playing demos.
Yeah, and I need to do that more often.
And every once in a while, I'll be surprised in a good way and surprised in a bad way. Like I never hope a game ill will, especially if it's not released yet. But you can spot clunkers a bit easier when you actually have the hand on the controller.
Though, funnily enough, Dalendar, I did play the demo for Renatus and did enjoy the demo from what I played of it. And
if you become the Renatus apologist of the site, it'll be very entertaining.
I'll get through that game one of these days, just not this year.
She was already the Witch in the 100 Night apologist.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, you were there for that one, was I actually kind of had fun playing that.
I think that was the one I was even going to review, and it's just noped out of it.
I enjoyed what little I know I played the entire thing and was like, okay, if it weren't for that one questionable scene, this wouldn't be that bad. And I had played that I think after Elden Ring,
Oh
which
wow.
which was like, going from full filet mignon to McDonald's. Um, but yeah, buyer beware for these games that we talked about tonight, I guess. I don't know. Maybe one of you might find something to like about it.
Probably not.
Probably not. But that being said, thank you, Ryan Gostan, Ryan Radcliffe,
You're welcome. It's always a pleasure.
and thank you, Jahwon. Did he bounce?
Yes.
He
Okay.
did. He was
My
had to leave work. Yep.
my bad. And you might cut that one out. Um, thank you, Wheels, for regaling us about Mugen Souls again.
You're welcome. Anytime.
And thank you, Matt, for editing and coincidentally doing a game from the same publisher that I did.
Yeah.
I-
Didn't even realize it till earlier today.
No, I thought that was hilarious. And of course, thank you, listener, for hanging out with us during this April Fool's Day episode. Join us in a pair of weeks. We should have started Atelier April tonight, but I wanted to do an April Fool's Day episode since we're recording on April 1st.
Hey, we had three Wednesdays in this month, so
Yeah.
that was a little too much
So-
Atelier.
Yeah, couldn't quite fit in 3 ateliers, but we can fit in 2 ateliers in a April Fool's Day episode. So join us in a pair of weeks. We are doing, I think we're doing the Mysterious trilogy first, and then
Oh,
the
we're talking
last-
mysterious the whole time, I believe.
Okay. Oh yeah, two
Just
games,
kind of
and
splitting it up.
2
Yep.
games along with Nelky. Okay.
Because
Um,
because it's April Fool's, does that mean we actually liked all these games?
Oh no!
I assume not.
I have enjoyed a good life, all right.
I enjoyed taking that game out of my PlayStation 5 and moving on to Guardians of the Galaxy.
Did you do an Office Space to it and take it to the back and smash it with the bat?
No, I never destroy my games as bad as they piss me off. Mainly because somebody I know will probably want it, or I don't know, maybe with Astria sending it might end up being a collector's item and I can offload it for a pretty penny.
I think it's actually gone down in price.
Ah, never mind. But join us in a pair of weeks where we will be talking about Atelier. Have a good rest of your week, and we shall talk to you later.
Adios.